Hello. Hello, it's really fabulous to be here. I played the Berlin Philharmonic, and I didn't actually know there was such a fantastic concert space here. We knew there was an event room, but that it's so great, I think I'm going to pass that message on. We have the guest of honor right here, and did you actually know he was a horn player? Did you know that? Well, I knew he was, so two horn players together. Esa-Pekka, welcome. So we discussed the possibility of telling some horn jokes at the beginning, but then we thought maybe that's not for public consumption. But you actually started your life as a horn player, as well as studying composing and conducting at the Sibelius Academy.
I did indeed, yeah. Yeah, I even made a living as a horn player.
You made a living as a horn
Well,
player?
not.
That's
I mean,
difficult.
like I was still in school, but I earned like my pocket money as a horn player in various orchestras in Helsinki. So I got to know that side of life.
So you're one of the club. That's okay. That's conductors that actually played the horn. That's
It's like a tattoo, you know. You get it once and then it's always there. So
and you understand us. So it's nice to have a horn player when conducting us.
you know, it's interesting. Wherever I go, the horn players always they know that I know that they know that I know that they know.
So you have more sympathy for us because you're one of us. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You could put it that way. Absolutely. Yeah.
But we are here not to talk about horn playing. We are here to talk about your composing with technique and all the new innovations that have reached us. You actually started. I heard a rumor that you and Magnus Lindberg shut yourselves up in a room and started playing Bach on a really, really old computer many years ago. Is this true?
But partly. It was, I think, back in '77 or '78. There was an institute in Stockholm called EMS, Elektronisk Musikinstitut, Electronic Music Center. They had a big mainframe computer, PDP-15. It was the size of, I would say, like 6 or 7 fridges put together. And it sounded the same also, the hum. The energy consumption was just like off the charts, and the room was very, very hot. And it was the first computer in Northern Europe dedicated to music composition. And the first thing we were trying to do was to write a fugue on it. So it was supposed to be in Bach style, but it was actually my fugue. And we spent, I don't know, maybe 14 hours punching little holes onto this paper tape. Oh. And the thing about that is that it's there's no connection between what you see and what you imagine to be hearing. So mistakes are not only common, but also they can be absolutely dramatic. So if you punch one holes in a slightly wrong position, the pitch might hop like 5 octaves or something like that. So it might actually become only audible to dogs and that kind of thing. And then, so we worked all night, and I have to admit we also drank some beer just to keep ourselves alert up to the task. And then it was early in the morning, like 8:30 or something. We thought, okay, it's finished now, so let's hear it. And then it starts playing, and the notes are essentially right, but it just jumps like 16 octaves up and down. It was the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. Like a bunch of insects, and then a rhino, insects, rhino, normal note, insects, rhino. And I never forget that day.
That would have been something for YouTube. Things have got a lot easier for you composing in that sort of using the new technologies, but you've never actually used technology in your compositions, or have you?
I have used samplers. I have used synthesizers and so on and so forth.
Would you compose? I don't know something. Would you bring an iPad into the orchestra?
I think it's only a matter of a few years when more and more musicians and perhaps orchestras are starting to use touchscreens instead of printed music, because that makes sense. It's good for the rainforests, but also you save on the postal cost and so on and so forth, and downloading is so much faster and safer than mailing things, and so I think it's just a matter of time. We still have some format issues and so on and so forth, and that the iPad screen is a little too small. But yeah, I think we are getting there.
I was looking to see your, what were your sort of technical successes up to now, and there are of course the ones in the music, like the Tristan project and Bluebeard. But actually, for me, I realized your first technical huge success was actually helping build the Walt Disney Center, the Walt Disney Hall in with Frank Gehry. Did you actually help him with the acoustics, and how did that work?
Well, we had an acoustician, Yasu Toyota, who is maybe the leading acoustician in the world at the moment. So he took care of that part. And Frank, of course, doesn't need help in designing anything. He can do it very well himself. But we spent a lot of time together discussing the idea of a concert hall. What should it be? What is the kind of message a concert hall should send? Of course, in America, also in some parts of Europe, but especially in the States, concert halls and public arts buildings built in the 70s and in the 80s, they had this sort of temple-like quality. Quite often they were up on hills or pedestals, and in order to get there, you had to climb stairs, and also you had to assume this kind of worship position when approaching an arts institution, which we didn't think was the right approach. I mean, worship is fine, but I think art, and especially music and live music, should be easily approachable, and it should be available, it should be there, and it should be on the street level. You can just pop in and see what's going on. And I think also what Frank managed to convey in his design is the sense of movement, excitement, openness, and adventure. And those are exactly the things that are not traditionally part of the kind of marketing of classical music. But they're there, and they're very important. And of course, as we know, I mean, people who listen to that kind of music and who perform and compose, we know that this is a huge part of what makes it so special.
So that was a technical feat in itself. So then we move on to where you started using video projections in the music, your Tristan project, and then your Bluebeard, and then this all morphed in, and then you decided to make it more tangible with your Rewrite project. Your Rewrite project was such a fantastic idea. It went all around the world, and you didn't have to take any musicians. You didn't even have to go yourself. There is a certain alarming quality in that.
The idea, of course, with these kind of digital projects is not to replace the hardcore experience of live music. I mean, that's of course what we're about, and that's what makes it special. That every moment is different from any previous moment, and will not be repeated exactly as it is, never again. And but I would like to see this technological component and the digital component as an extension of what we're experiencing. So maybe adding another layer of expression, or maybe explaining something that is happening, maybe giving people some kind of a handle to understand what it is, and to get more engaged, get more deeply involved with the expression and the narrative of music and all that. And
that's what the Rite of Spring, this Rite project was. It was a series of installations where you could even play percussion in the Rite of Spring. You could try and conduct it as well. I've seen many people try and do that.
Yes, we all try to conduct that piece, but that was a sort of a pilot project. It's very hard to describe if you haven't seen it, but the idea was that we would...
I think there's a couple of pictures of...
Right.
No, that's John Tom right now.
That's the Bluebeard.
But there's a couple of pictures of the kids trying it out, I think, coming on.
Yeah, the idea was that we would capture the orchestra, the Philharmonia Orchestra, playing the Rite of Spring with 39 HD cameras, some of them man-operated and some of them automatic robotic cameras. And then we even used some head cameras. So there were a couple of players who could offer this kind of point of view perspective. And then we kind of spread the orchestra around in space, in an installation space, where every section had their own high definition screen. And you could kind of walk into the belly of an orchestra, and then you can walk around. And of course, what happens then acoustically is that if you're close to the oboes, you hear them louder. It was mixed in such a way. And you can play along, you can bring your own instrument. You can have running commentary from me and some of the players, and trying to explain what is happening, what we're thinking at any given moment.
And this was an installation that it went on tour. It went to many different cities.
And I went to see it as a sort of civilian a few times in various places, because I was really curious about how it was perceived and how people reacted, because nothing like that had been done before. And my best moment was in Lisbon. There were two old ladies, well into their 80s. They were trying to play the bass drum part in the end of the first part of the sacre. And the Philharmonia first percussionist was giving instructions on screen. Oh, now you hit. And the ladies were whacking the bass drum and having a great time. And I thought, that's one of the most beautiful things about this kind of music. We don't have, there's no age limit. You know, you can be 2 years old, you can be 102 years old, and everything in between. So it's not a tribal, focused marketing effort, such as in many brands of rock and pop music, where there's a sort of a very clearly focused group, and then if you're not part of that group, then you listen to something else and this and that. So we are totally open and welcoming, and that's the whole point. I mean, that's why we are using these digital things.
What would you like to reach with that? I mean, because no one can ever replace a live concert experience, as we'll see in a minute.
No, but if you are not used to the ritual of a symphony concert, for instance, it's a little bewildering, I must say.
Some people are afraid of it. They think, oh, that's too highbrow for me.
Well, there is that, but also what actually happens on stage. You have an orchestra wearing something that looks like 1880s upper middle class evening, like dinner outfit. And then there's a person on the box who's making ritual movements that seem to have a vague or no connection with what's going on, and you wonder how on earth does it work? It sounds really great, but what makes it work? How are they actually communicating?
How often have I been asked, do you really need that guy up there on the podium? We do.
I've been asked that too. This is awful name dropping, but once in the early 80s, I was supposed to do a project with Sting, and he came to one of my concerts, and I was conducting the London Sinfonietta in Schoenberg's Kammersymphony, and he came to see me afterwards and said, "That was great. What a good piece. But what do you actually do? How do you have? I didn't detect any connection between what you do and the music." So that was a little dramatic.
Yeah. He's a cool one, is old Sting.
Yeah, but I thought maybe this needs a little bit of analysis.
So you've morphed this rewrite project into an app, which I happen to have here on one I've prepared earlier. And you up there? I do this. And here we go. What would you like to hear? Symphonie Fantastique? What Esa-Pekka was just talking about, you can literally do. You can go into a piece and you can go into the music, you can see who's playing, there's Katie, the first horn, and you can go into the orchestra with these little dots, press on a section, and hear how awful the horns sound from behind. We sound terrible if you sit behind us.
So the idea is that you hover your finger over the orchestra and that moves you to that very acoustical spot of the orchestra. So it's
an incredible thing. You've also got wonderful interviews with the well, not interviews. Your Philharmonia Orchestra are amazing digitally. They just get on. Look, I went first, and I went here, and I pressed on the horn, and I got Katie. I pressed on Katie.
Hello, my name's Katie, and I play the French
And she
horn.
goes on for hours about the French horn. She's amazing.
as people do.
It's really well, as they do. Okay, but anyway, I mean, this is what you've put together. That is really an incredible present to everyone out there. You feel like you're sitting in the orchestra, and you can hear what it sounds like in the horn section, in the violin section. Where did you get this idea from? It was just something you always wanted to put out there?
Well, in all honesty, I had extremely capable and inventive collaborators when doing this.
You've always been an Apple user, haven't you? Right from the... Okay, well, maybe...
Yeah,
yes,
absolutely. Yeah, I've been fairly faithful, I must say.
Yeah.
But so we thought that after the rewrite experience, which was really a pilot in many ways, we didn't know how this would be perceived and how it would work. It was such a success, so we thought that we should do something for the iPad, because the platform was actually maturing, and also the new generation iPads were powerful enough to do all this stuff. So you can have 4 HD windows
That's
open
right,
at the same
yeah.
time, and plus you can run sound in high audio. You see, it's 5-year-olds who master this in like 5 minutes, and then
That's the scary thing, they really can.
so for them it's totally normal. You grew up with touchscreen and that's it, and then in 3 minutes they have got the hang of it. But the idea was to create something that would work on many different levels, not only for the professionals or the music lovers or the sort of people with the experience, but also people who never been to a classical concert, never seen a symphony orchestra, and everything in between. And I was hoping that it would work on many different levels, also in terms of how deep you want to go. You can just watch a performance of, say, the first movement of Mahler 6, or you can go into the history of the orchestra.
Or you can watch the Esa-Pekka Salonen violin concerto.
Yeah,
But the great thing is, excuse me for interrupting. The great thing is your commentary. You can go on and you can hear them talking about it while it plays. It's commentar. Listen, here you go. You get the subtitles. You can have the subtitles going while you play it. It's incredible.
And I was also hoping that this could have a function in music education in schools, normal schools. More and more schools are using iPads. More and more schools are cutting back on arts education, and especially classical music. And I was hoping that this kind of app could fill the gap somehow.
And there's been a wonderful campaign as well, versus it's a beautiful campaign. It's such a gift to classical music to have this so much publicity out there. I think we'll show the film. It's beautiful. It's beautiful, and we are very lucky because we'll be hearing the third movement of the violin concerto live in a moment. Does anyone have any questions for the maestro about the app or about his horn playing? I can't really see out there, it's so dark. Oh, it's quite quiet out there. Yes, you have a question.
How does it feel like to be up there and conduct the music?
It is fun. And for me, the best part is to work together with people, the musicians, to kind of hear them play from the best seat in the house, right there, and feel the energy. It's really great.
Do you think you'll be playing with this app and going looking at the orchestra? It looks pretty cool, doesn't it? Yeah, good. Good answer. It was like I was seeing lots of old friends anyway from England, but I recognized all their faces from the app. You've brought them over with you this afternoon.
Of course, never leave home without the Philharmonia Orchestra.
They'll be coming on in a minute. Tell us about the program.
We are going to start with Waltz Triste by Sibelius. And then Lila Josefovic is going to play the third movement of my violin concerto, followed by a short solo violin piece of mine also. It's the last section of a violin piece called Lachen verlernt. And then we are going to play Musique funèbre by Lutoslawski for string orchestra. It's not the jolliest ending imaginable, but it's a beautiful piece.
Do you think classical music needs all this technology?
Well, I think it would be idiotic to think that we somehow live in a bubble that has nothing to do with the rest of the world. That would just destroy us. And we have really tried to destroy ourselves in this way, but luckily didn't quite manage. And you know, if you look at the history of the orchestra, for instance, or composed music, Partiturmusik, and it goes hand in hand with the technological development, of course. You know, you look at Wagner, you look at Berlioz, you know, all these people. The moment somebody invented something, they were right there. And they even invented things themselves. And I read somewhere that the first version of the Alpen Symphony by Richard Strauss used a machine that somebody had. Have you heard about this?
I haven't.
That a machine that helped the wind players to play longer phrases without taking breath.
I want one.
But he abandoned the machine after the first performance. And I'm terribly curious about how this works, where it's some kind of a pump. But I have no idea how this works. But I would love to see a picture of it. If anybody has one, please send it to me.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think we need to move with the times in classical music, and I think we are very lucky to have you and your vision in technology. Not only that, but with your music making, and your composing. Thank you for coming today, and thank you for bringing your orchestra and your piece and your app. Thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.